Look what modders did! If there is one thing I love Paradox for, it's for truly embracing the modding community and not just allowing it to flourish, but enabling it, making for much richer and deeper and immersive games than could have ever been possible without it. And believe it or not, CK3 has thousands of mods to choose from the insane overhauls that take you to other worlds, to the tiny quality of life changes that only you could ever want. But sometimes, all you want is to play Crusader Kings 3, but better, yet one that doesn't stray too far away from the vanilla experience. And in this video, I'm going to show you my preferred way to play with the most immersive mods for that Vanilla Plus experience. Now I know there are some major mods that are not on this list, but I've chosen what I have with compatibility and ease in mind, which is what indeed makes this a Vanilla Plus experience, but which significantly increases your enjoyment and immersion. Mod number 1, which is so close to my heart, is Holy Roman Triumph coronation ceremonies. I love me a good empire, but sadly their uniqueness is very rarely depicted in CK3. In fact, virtually never, since essentially every title rank shares the same system. Not with HRT though, as the Holy Roman Empire is now actually made unique, and in the most awesome way possible. The Empire now has its very own window, showcasing the details on what's going on here. On top, we have the succession system, detailing the current Emperor, the current Heir Presumptive, and the 3 top candidates for succession based on votes, since the HRE runs on an Imperial elective succession system after all. Below, we have the Prince Electors, those you must sway to vote for your chosen candidate. So far though, both of these features, the Succession and the Electors, are kind of already featured in CK3 menus themselves. But what's completely new and seemingly taken inspiration from EU4 is what comes next, the Imperial Edicts and Imperial Authority. Imperial Edicts are relatively powerful Holy Roman specific decisions you get to make, based on your current era. However, none of them are permanent, but last for 5 years. They're not just positive though, as they do cost both resources and personal attribute levels, meaning you must think wisely on whether enacting them is worth it at any given time. They're not just positive though, as they do cost resources, meaning you must think wisely on whether enacting them is worth it at any given time. To enact them though, you need Imperial Authority, a unique value that increases over time, based on a number of values, such as Prestige and Dread. All of this is incredibly juicy and so welcome, and the mod has been severely improved since its first iteration, when it was far too detrimental to enact new Imperial Edicts. Honestly, this system is even better than CK2's ever was, and is almost on par with EU4's, which adds so much goodness to CK3's Holy Roman Empire experience. But more than this, Holy Roman Triumph actually introduces coronations, not just for the Holy Roman Empire even, but for the entirety of Roman Christendom, essentially on par with their CK2 counterparts. If you are a new ruler of king tier or higher, you may now ask the Pope or Archbishop or a local priest to crown you, giving a modifier that resembles your coronation status, and finally a proper crown on your head. Coronations work as activities, unlocking once you've chosen the one to crown you, and you may bask in various kinds of glory for various amounts of gold. I love this so much, and even though it would be nice if a crown also gave you more legitimacy, I'm so happy this feature is here. In other words, Holy Roman Triumph is an absolutely fantastic and recent addition to CK3 and could honestly be a full flavor pack on its own, so I bow my proverbial head to this mod author. Closely linked with HRT and the perfect mod to run alongside it is the Catholic Trinity, a mod focusing on the Catholic Church and its main aspects during this era, namely the College of Cardinals, the Pope, the question of investiture, and crusades. As it stands in CK3, Catholicism lacks a ton of features when compared to CK2, but Catholic Trinity sees this and says, "Not on my watch, buddy," and provides us with a glorious College of Cardinals system and UI. There are ever 21 cardinals at once, and new ones are elected as old ones die based on a point system. You may forward your candidate by investing gold into their candidature, but so may everyone else into their own, and the candidates with the highest candidate score wins the next open seat. This follows in the actual college as well, meaning that the sitting cardinal with the highest cardinal score, based on a number of factors related to their person, becomes Papabile or Papabile, essentially the next pope and leader of the Papal States and all of Christendom. in them. This is not so easy, however. Accumulated piety, learning skill, age, and the Pope's personal opinion all increase the cardinal score, meaning that older characters are more likely to be elected. And since funding the campaign with 50 gold only increases their score by 5, and these scores are usually measured in the hundreds, you have to be extremely wealthy to successfully make a difference with money alone. Alongside this mechanic, we have a new system of investiture, where every kingdom tier realm or higher has either papal or free investiture, i.e. whether the Pope himself or the ruler is able to install archbishops. Papal investiture is the default and also the one the Pope demands you implement, giving you a personal opinion bonus with him. Free investiture will make the Pope despise you more or less, but nets you a hefty increase to theocracy vassal tax contributions if you have the prestige and piety to make the switch. There is even a system of anti-popes here, where it's possible to declare outright opposition to the Pope and install your own if you back up your candidate with sufficient might. A major feature of Catholic Trinity is the added feature of being able to actually play as the Pope in Rome, with the next ruler in line always being the next cardinal in waiting, the Papabile. This is wild actually, and makes for quite a unique playthrough that's separated from the usual dynasty ties. You coronate the kings of Europe when they ask if you choose to accept, you gain money from the income the church brings in across Europe, you may declare that only the Pope will appoint bishops, and yes, you can even call crusades after they've been enabled, and if you meet the requirements. You may in fact even excommunicate Catholic rulers against a large resource cost, and in a similar vein, spend piety to request claims on their lands, which I'm sure you'll accept. And as a Catholic ruler, you can even go on minor crusades to aid the newly erected Catholic kingdoms, or while on a crusade, if you're able to personally occupy a full duchy that's not part of the crusade target. You can therefore create a single independent Crusader state during the war, which is just insanely awesome and mimics what happened historically. In other words, the Catholic Trinity is simply unfathomably fantastic, and coupled with Holy Roman Triumph, we suddenly have ourselves the ultimate CK3 Catholicism experience that in fact even surpasses that of CK2 by miles and adds so much to this game. Mod number 3 is one extremely close to my heart because it literally fixes an aspect of CK3 that's eating at me, namely the uniqueness and immersion of cities and their development. While all CK3 cities look very similar and remains tiny models in vanilla, Cities of Wonder 3 either begins or allows you to create massive cities that actually look like it, providing 3D models that even outshine those of say Total War games where graphics have been a major selling point. Now getting to the point of building these cities yourself is tough, since cities that look this way are level 5 burgs. Now there is a way to get there faster through the creating a City of Wonder decision, which is nice to have, but it demands a hefty sum of gold and several years to accomplish. And if your realm already contains another level 5 city, you can't get there with this decision, but must wait for its natural growth and or your innovations to catch up. However, there are some unique cities that were historically large that begin as level 5 burgs, many of them in places like Italy, France, England with London, and more across North Africa and the Middle East and more. Some have relatively similar designs, like Salerno and Napoli for example, which are identical, but which still look so much better, larger, and richer than the regular models. Some have entirely unique designs though, like Jerusalem, which begins as a level 4 castle, but which when made into a City of Wonder level 5 burg, receives an entirely unique and beautiful model, complete with historical buildings and a gorgeous city wall layout. Other models like these include Baghdad, Toledo, and Constantinople, but let's return to that one later. Of course, Cities of Wonder 3 is not just a visual mod, but heavily impacts gameplay. The larger cities have better walls and more building icons, allowing for city-states or the owner of those holdings to become more powerful than they otherwise would. Owning a City of Wonder or a level 5 burg in general is a massive boon to any campaign, and with the newer updates and features, if you are playing as a duchy but own a City of Wonder as your capital, you're actually able to create a local kingdom and play tall. And of course, owning such a city gives you an advantage over your vassals who might not own one, both in terms of sheer siege defense and the extra income, legitimacy from owning such a city, and building capabilities. There's more to Cities of Wonder 3 than what I've laid out here, but it's such a fantastic and game-changing mod that touches every single character and campaign that I would never want to play without this again, and I highly recommend it. Now closely linked with Cities of Wonder 3, because it partly also deals with models, is medieval arts. And just like the former, it is also so much more. Medieval arts is all about bringing new life and cultural depth into CK3. First of all, Medieval Arts also offers a city model for Constantinople, but by enabling the game rule of Cities of Wonder 3 to play alongside MA, these mods are perfectly compatible and can be played together. This is how I get that beautiful Constantinople and a new gorgeous version of Nicaea to work alongside those awesome burgs of Cities of Wonder. But more than that, Medieval Arts adds a bunch of new 3D models and corresponding buildings that represent historical monuments, like the Lighthouse of Alexandria, the Acropolis, and so much more around the world. More than this though, if you are an owner of a country with a ruin, you get to manage that ruin, allowing you to maintain it lest it falls into disrepair. There are even modified or new cultural traits that reflect this feature, and we have an entirely new system dedicated to art and art styles, allowing you to create works of art yourself in the styles of your choice, even to the point of erecting unique castles and palaces for your benefit. Not just awesome for a mighty emperor, but enriching even further that playing tall experience. Medieval Arts and its submod, Medieval Arts More Special Buildings, add so many new historical buildings to the game in literally hundreds of cities across the world, with more than 1,000 new buildings, and is a must-play if you value an authentic and more immersive medieval artistic and architectural experience. A recent mod, but no less fantastic, is Cultures and Faith's Granularity, which does something simply groundbreaking. Simulating the religious and cultural diversity of each location in the game, no longer are entire regions just made up of one faith or one people at the same time. Each location, depending on their histories, now consists of a variety of both, which is also reflected at game start, with certain regions being entirely homogeneous, while others are much more diverse. In one of the most fun campaigns I have ever played, I switched my character from the King of Sicily to the Queen of Jerusalem. This meant that I was now a ruler in a foreign land, and with none of my culture or religion present. This means that both me and my vassals spend time converting people location by location. With this mod though, a region is considered majority religion X and culture Y if the sum total of your X and Y is the highest with combining all locations in that region. In other words, you could have one city in a region be completely Muslim, while the number of Catholics in the other cities combined is larger than the amount of Muslims in the former, making Catholicism the majority religion, and you get to choose in which location you wish to convert. Not only is this mod immersive, but it also comes with mechanical changes. When there are more faiths and cultures present in the same place, we get religious or cultural strife due to the differences in the population, resulting in tax, opinion, and control laws depending on the amount of strife. This is great, but I do wish this part of the mod was expanded to include positive modifiers as well, perhaps based on cultural acceptance, which the mod already uses to lower levels of strife. But it would be nice to perhaps see things like innovation increase, diplomacy skill bonuses, or other types of boons when featuring a diverse city, as the medieval world was full of dynamic cities that featured several peoples and faiths at once. Either way, the concept of this mod is fantastic, and I love it even at this early stage. Now for a completely different mod, but arguably one of the most impressive mods ever made, for any game ever. Crusader Wars. And it's simple really. If you've ever felt like CK3's battles were lacking, that it took away from the experience to see two armies clash and duke it out with no input from the player, Crusader Wars has you covered, and allows you to use Total War Attila to play your battles manually on a grand scale. If there's one strategy game I've always wanted, it would be a combination of Paradox's deep campaign mechanics with Total War's battles. And with Crusader Wars, we are basically there, and it doesn't just work surprisingly well, but also does some incredibly impressive and immersive stuff. First of all, the mod manages to link Crusader Kings factions to those in Total War Attila while using corresponding mods, all laid out when you launch a battle. By default, and to keep with the spirit of CK3, you only get to play the battles commanded by your character, but this can be changed in the in-game menu, allowing you to play the battles led by more characters, or indeed all your battles. Not only are factions matched, but factors like units, battlefields and their weather and seasons, knights, the amount of each, and even entirely new skills based on CK3 traits are matched and inherited as well. Even the specific army numbers are present and accounted for, but this can even be altered in the launcher settings, allowing you to play smaller battles but proportional to the real numbers, for better performance for example, while every result is still accurately translated back into CK3 post-battle. The units even change with the times as you change the mods from say Attila's Anno Domini to MK1212, and even works fully with total overhaul mods like the Fallen Eagle and even Dawnless Days. And saying this, I can't believe it's true, it really is that impressive. One thing I've noticed, however, is that the enemy AI in Attila seems to be acting a bit differently than it normally does, often beginning completely out of sight of the player's army and marching forward in a way that's not very advantageous, and I hope this is fixable because it can lead to some awkward first stage of battles. But there are massive upcoming features planned as well. You can even look forward to culturally diverse armies within a single faction, which draws from multiple Total War factions at once to simulate a diverse empire, siege battles, and more. Honestly, if you haven't tried Crusader Wars yet, you absolutely need to, as it is in truth the most impressive literal game changer I've ever experienced, especially when considering the amount of polish and features, and since it technically doesn't change anything related to your campaign, I still consider it vanilla friendly, especially because you can always choose to fight your battles or not, deciding exactly when you wish to assume personal command. However, unlike the other mods, Crusader Wars does disable achievements, so keep that in mind if you feel like going achievement hunting. While the name is a bit confounding, Cultural Armies Redux with new art for cultural armies is what you need to use if you're not going to play with Crusader Wars, because these two mods are actually incompatible, and for good reason. Because while Crusader Wars meticulously maps each unit in vanilla CK3 to the various Total War mod Attila medieval mods, Cultural Armies adds entirely new units based on cultural factors to the game. It essentially replaces the generic names and UI art in the vanilla game with culturally appropriate names and images for men at arms, making CK3 a much more tailored cultural experience that really makes it feel like you are leading unique armies into war with every new realm. In other words, if you're not going to play Crusader Wars and lead your armies on the field, you owe it to yourself to download Cultural Armies Redux, which enhances CK3's campaign warfare immensely. And speaking of warfare, why not spice up the way your commanders work as well? With Commanders Plus, those warfare traits you gain from battles aren't just static anymore, but have been remade to function like the other progressive stats, meaning that the more you use your commanders in specific ways, like raiding, fighting in the field, and more, they accumulate experience in that trait, forcing commanders to actually earn their greatness with repeated action. I can't explain how much more dynamic this makes generals feel, and how much more it makes you want to use them because of it. In general, progressive traits are just better in my opinion, and adding on the fact that these new traits even show up in events makes Commanders Plus a no-brainer. Our next mod is a bit more subtle, but nevertheless one I absolutely adore, namely Patrum Scuta. This mod's aim is to make the coat of arms and family crests of our medieval world even more historical and beautiful, because it not only brings us entirely new and improved shield designs, but does it all in high definition, meaning everything looks that much sharper and more colorful. In fact, you might have noticed another major change here, namely the actual shape of our coat of arms as well. Now, I am a fan of CK3's banner-like designs for realms, but I have to say that returning to shields, but shields that look even slicker than those in CK2, it's actually really grown on me. They just look so beautiful, and even though I wish that Patrum Scuta managed to give Empire titles as much zest as CK2 gave to the Holy Roman Empire, it does extend the use of dynamic coat of arms for certain titles, and I truly love this new style now. Couple in as well the fact that we have a much expanded coat of arms designer, which truly lets you go to town, and this is in my opinion a must play, especially since it's so lightweight and integrates effortlessly into any campaign. Now for one of the more famous mods on the workshop, we have Regional Immersion and Cultural Enrichment, or RICE for short. I won't go into every detail of what RICE accomplishes, but the gist of it is that it adds a host of new culturally themed events, innovations, religious aspects, characters, building projects, and decisions to the game. Not only that, but it even adds what it calls 34 new flavor packs, which are essentially 34 special characters who have been given unique campaigns with special events. To add even further goodness onto this, we have more unique struggle regions that add a ton of flavor, like the consolidation of Normandy for example. There is so much depth to RICE that it's hard to fit it all into one section. But if you want more flavor and cultural distinctiveness to not just cultures, but to regions and characters, then RICE is exactly what you're looking for. And now for the workshop's most downloaded mod, and for good reason, we have Community Flavor Pack. Bringing tons more variety to characters' clothing, artifacts, traits, hairstyles, and so much more, Community Flavor Pack brings an unprecedented amount of diversity to CK3 that makes every character from over 50 cultures all over the world come that much more alive. But perhaps my favorite aspect of this mod is the fact that it's created entirely new 3D court models for very specific courts, most importantly bringing the courts of Byzantium, the Holy Roman Empire, and the Papal States to entirely new life, and made them entirely unique and grand on a completely different level. There isn't much more to say other than, again, this mod is simply astonishing and brings CK3 to completely new immersive heights. For our final major mod, we have a creation of my own, but which I thankfully received help and inspiration from other modders for, namely Andy's Ultimate Map Immersion. This is the mod I personally need the most in CK3, which is why I was so set on making it. To me, CK3's map fails in other areas other Paradox games succeed in, namely in the realm of focusing attention to your kingdom by way of Fog of War. Vanilla CK3 only really uses Fog of War on the lowest terrain level, while also fairly quickly removing the names of counties as you zoom. I also feel like the paper map itself is rather cluttered, and that it doesn't truly give me that map look I loved from CK2 and EU4. Well, with Andy's Ultimate Map Immersion, I'd say the glory of CK2 is back. Fog of War now lasts all the way until the paper map, highlighting only you or your allies in war's kingdoms from the terrain to the political level. In addition, the political map begins a bit sooner now, but the names of counties remain for much longer, and with the addition of a bit thicker borders, the map feels more distinct and drawn in. In other words, if you've been wanting a more immersive and dynamic CK3 map experience, then you've come to the right place. Now for some smaller mods but meaningful ones in rapid fire style that I truly think you should consider. COA Rally Points and Raised Army COA are two mods by the same modder that replaces those boring red and green flags with your actual coat of arms, embellishing your realm with this one simple trick, and it's simply astounding. NUI Realm Ledger brings an actual ledger into CK3, which is sorely missed in vanilla, and brings your realm, vassals, and even foreign title holders into one and the same neat menu. And not only is it beautiful to look at, but it neatly situates your counselors and most important vassals in one and the same menu. Just truly great stuff. Immersive negative trait removal allows you to get rid of a stress trait if you manage to keep your stress away until your next birthday. Realize 2.0 brings better eyes, less event spam, and stop Plague and Legends event spam, which makes those events a bit less rare to pop up, which makes for a smoother and more enjoyable, less spammy experience. Higher tier army units, which always displays those awesome elite knights for your army 3D models instead of peasant levies. More lifestyles, which brings the awesome lifestyles of prowess and leadership. Nameplates, which shows the name of characters in events. Better barbershop, which allows you to customize your character on a whole different level and put them in various cool poses for those kingly photo shoots. And lastly, but definitely not least, Crusader Kings 2 Music Complete, which adds that beautiful CK2 music into the game, which is an absolute must for me. And of course, the all-time GOAT, CK2 Christmas Carol for those dark December months, which always brings the holiday spirit. Those were my favorite and absolute must-play mods for an improved immersive vanilla-like experience, with mods that do not really need compatibility patches and a ton of managing. I know there are a bunch of others that could be mentioned here, but like I said, I wanted to create a list that was fairly lightweight and that didn't need too much tinkering with to be playable. I'll leave my personal load order for these in the description and on screen right now as well to achieve ultimate compatibility as I see it. Let me know what you think of this list and CK3 mods in general, tell me if there are any other ones I've missed, and remember to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, and consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!